Welcome to the Big 12 Insiders, your Big 12 sports show. Here's your host, Brien Hanley.
And I'm Tim Fitzgerald sitting in for Big B. Big B, get better real soon. We have our second game, another game in this conference that is going to be absolutely awesome this weekend. It is Kansas playing host to Colorado in Arrowhead Stadium. And all of a sudden, Kansas is rolling. The unfortunate thing here is they're going to play at 2:30. That game's on Fox, correct, Michael?
Yes.
And the other big game, BYU Arizona State's at 2:30 Central Times on ESPN. So that stinks. But one thing that doesn't stink right now in Big 12 football are the Kansas Jayhawks. And we're joined by Michael Swain of the Fog.net, the 24/7 site of KU Sports. What is going on with KU? This was the team we thought we'd see at the start of the year. And now here they are. Does this add to frustration about the season or alleviate some of the frustration about
the season? It makes it worse.
It does.
I think if you talk to KU fans right now, I think people are just more like, what the heck? Like that's really, I think, the overwhelming feeling right now. Obviously, I think fans are happy that the season didn't bottom out, right? That was a big concern and something we were talking about on the website. If you go back to kind of the Arizona State loss for KU, its first bye week, right? You're looking at it and saying, man, like KU can't have the bottom fall out for this season. And you got to give credit to, right, the players and coaches for keeping going and not letting, the rest of the season kind of go by the wayside. And obviously, KU in the back half of this season has started to play well. And I think there's no better encapsulation of the season for KU than this BYU game last week, where it comes down to a pooch kick that hits off a BYU player, hits out of the hands of a different BYU player into a KU player. And those are the types of bounces, if you go back to the first half of the season, right? Illinois muffed a punt that would have set KU up inside the 5-yard line, and it was eventually a one-score game and would have given KU total control. It falls to an Illinois player, and it's a touchback. Well, then you go to UNLV the next week, and there's a fumble. 6 or 7 players touch the ball, and they don't recover it. UNLV goes on to score, win the game. So all of a sudden in this BYU game, the luck that was going against KU for so much of this season fell KU's way. And I think for a lot of fans, right, they're super excited about the fact that it did finally go KU's way. And you look at the performance levels for KU, genuinely, they're not that different than what you saw in the first half of the season. You're just seeing a lot more of these high leverage plays that are being made, right? The down to down consistency or inconsistency for some units is still there, right? That you're seeing early in the year. But what's changed now is Melo Dotson gets a pick at the end of the first half and BYU doesn't score. The defense gets that stop at the end of the game to win the game. And those are the types of key plays that KU is missing for so much of the season. And look, in the Big 12 fits, like you watch it every week, you see it. Like these games come down to who can make the one play that changes the game.
Yep.
And for so much of the season, KU was not that team, where KU was legitimately outplaying teams. And you can look at the advanced numbers, right? Success rate, all that good stuff. KU was outplaying teams. But when those big moments came, the other team was making the plays and KU wasn't. So that's what's changed. It's created, I think, a pretty exciting atmosphere for this Saturday's game. Obviously, it'll be senior day, 2:30. A lot of people excited to see Dion in Colorado. So look, Arrowhead, I think, had about 50 to 53,000 for the Iowa State game. I bet on 55, maybe a little bit more for this game.
Yep, they should show up. Although you're not going to get much help from Colorado fans. That's kind of crazy. They should travel. This is a huge game for them. I struck in watching the end of that KU BYU game that BYU's been blessed by the breaks, all the bounces.
Totally.
And then it flipped on both teams with that one play. But when BYU got the ball back with about, 2 minutes left or whatever it was, you had to have that, here we go again.
Oh, yeah.
Because it has been that way every year or every game. Just the same thing seems to happen. This time the defense got the stop. And I think it meant more than winning one game. It really did. Now back to back, you've beaten ranked teams, and which is incredible. And kind of slayed the dragon, which was honestly choking. And now you're going to see a Colorado team that is playing exceptional football. I think these are the two best teams in this moment in the Big 12, or KU and Colorado. This is going to be a heck of a matchup. CU's talented. We know about their skill players. They got two Heisman potential
Yeah,
candidates, one guy that might just win it. And the defense is playing better. The offensive line is blocking. CU's legit now. They're a problem.
they are a problem. And I think if you look, BYU was a tough matchup for KU insofar as they're really physical.
Mhm.
And KU, for most of the season, I would say, has been the more physical team in the games that they have played. And BYU was maybe the first time this season that you've watched a game and said, oh, KU's just getting kind of their butts kicked for a good portion of this game. And Colorado gets back to a little bit more of what some of these other Big 12 teams are, where they have physical elements, right? Their defensive line is athletic. They've played really well. The offensive line has done a better job of protecting Shedeur Sanders. But at the end of the day, they're still a team that wants to spread the ball out. They want to get the ball to Travis Hunter, to Horn, to any one of those wide receivers and go and make plays. And you're not going to see them try and have a 10-minute drive like BYU did at the start of the second half. And for KU, it's going to be a tough matchup because you look at what this defense has struggled with, and it's limiting explosive plays. And what does Colorado have? It's a bunch of the best wide receivers, maybe the best wide receiver room in the conference, honestly, and the best player in college football for my money, and Travis Hunter. Like he should win the Heisman
Yep.
because he's playing freaking two sides of the ball, 100 plus snaps. He knows what he's doing. He's not out there being a clown and making mistakes. Like he's a ball player on both sides of the ball. He's probably the player I'm most excited to watch since maybe Baker Mayfield.
Mhm.
Like it's incredible what he is doing this year. And so I think this is going to be a different type of matchup for KU in this game where it's going to come down to some of KU secondary players, right? Can
Right.
Kobe and Mello go out there and cover some of these wide receivers? Can KU safeties that have sometimes played poorly this year, I think over the last couple of weeks they've been better, can they go out there and cover really well? Like this is a Colorado team that's going to stretch you more physically, more vertically and horizontally than physically. And
Right.
so it's going to be a different type of challenge. And it's one that KU's defense has struggled against this year because I don't have the advanced numbers in front of me, but like in terms of passing explosive plays, they rank in like the 10th percentile, something like that nationally. Like it's not very good. So this is the type of game where that is really going to be tested.
I find that baffling because Case corners are elite.
Yeah.
Maybe they've had some issues here and there, but every corner gets beat on occasion. It's impossible to be perfect at that spot. I feel like this is a game of potential redemption for those two guys that they're going to go up against legit NFL talent, and if they
Totally.
can choke that off and prove their coverage skills, they're going to get paid for it come draft time. I think this is a huge stage for those guys to step up and really put something on display.
Totally. And you mentioned why they're allowing big plays. Well, I think a part of that was early in the season. Um, Look, Kobe Mello are big play type of players. They want to go and make that critical touchdown, pick six, right? Like Mello has done so many times and Kobe has done so many times that sometimes you gamble and that doesn't pay off. And honestly, KU safety play over the first kind of half of the season was downright atrocious. And that is why some of those, explosive passing numbers look maybe a little bit worse than they
Yeah.
theoretically are for the two corners because KU's nickel corner was getting burnt early in the season. Then the safeties were getting burnt, and so that's maybe what contributes to the numbers looking the way that they are. But this is going to be a challenge because KU switches sometimes between man and zone, and Kobe Bryant's not been shy talking about Travis Hunter and this matchup this week, right? I think Kobe wants to prove that he is the best corner in college football. Is he? I'd take Travis Hunter, I think. But it is a situation where he wants to go and show that, and Melo wants to go and show that. He's just a quieter guy, so he's not going to talk about it. And this is a game that I think some of these players have been looking forward to, just because of the nature of Colorado and what they are, And I mean this in the most positive way possible, but they're a walking circus
Mhm.
because there is so much fanfare around the program because of what Dion has done and gotten the fans back on board and brought some of these incredibly talented players to Colorado. When you look under Mel Tucker and past coaches, right, that it wasn't the same. And so this is a game that K's players, I think, have been looking forward to, and they got something to prove because at this point in time, KU can play spoiler, and I think that is something that they are relishing. I wouldn't exactly say they're thinking about it like this, but this is how I think about it. If going into the year, your thought is, hey, we're going to make the Big 12 title game because we're good enough, and you have the start of the season KU did, it's kind of like, you get pissed off as a kid and you take the ball home with you. Well, I think that's kind of KU's, approach maybe the last couple weeks where, hey, all right, we can't make it, but this week, let's take it to a team's dreams. And they've done it 2 weeks in a row so
It's
far.
incredible.
You know,
It's absolutely
there's a,
incredible.
and there's a chance that if KU wins this week, and we got to see how the Big 12 title game plays out, but the Big 12 may not have any teams in the college football playoff. Like that is a real possibility right now with the way that this schedule could play out for the Big 12 at the end of the year. And I think that's something that obviously I don't think KU administration would like it because I think they'd like the money that comes from being in the playoff, but I think the players probably are going to embrace some of that.
Yep, that's a very interesting possibility. I don't see the committee doing that unless everyone's got 3 losses. But you're right. Someone's got to step forward here, and the one stepping forward are the Kansas Jayhawks, and they have no chance to win the conference. And it's amazing. But what I'm going to find entertaining about this game, you mentioned the circus, and it is a circus, and it went from one of the world's worst circuses to the elephants in our walking type rope. It's like it's absolutely entertaining.
Yeah.
I don't know if the sideline circus will be there, but they always have the celebrities lined up at Folsom Field, and maybe they'll have some. KU will bring on their own. They got some star power. Bring it on for this game. We'll see. But these are 2 teams that are brashly confident. They always have. That's one thing that KU's never wavered about, and probably why they're still on track here. Their confidence didn't waver. They believe in themselves. And I think this could be, honestly, a game of a lot of trash talking, a lot of back and forth, a lot of scoring, a lot of big plays, and really physical. This could be an amazing game.
It's got the makings of it. Like I have not seen what the over-under is on this game, but I bet you the final is going to be in the 60s. Like this is a game that I think KU's going to have some hard times stopping Colorado's offense. But look, Colorado's going against, I think UCF has the best run offense in the country in terms of like EPA, but KU's is top 10.
Yep.
And it's an elite rushing offense, and
It
it is consistent, and they do a great job of blocking for Devin Neal, and Devin Neal is an incredible player. And I think Colorado is going to have a hard time dealing with that because they do have great athletes, right? If KU has to drop back and pass, and it's clear passing situations for 3 quarters, that's going to be tough to deal with. But if KU can get an early lead and kind of control some of that game state, I don't know that Colorado is going to be able to stop KU's run offense. And then it's a question of how can you build that passing attack off of that to put Travis Hunter in situations where he's thinking, okay, do I have to go and tackle right now? Do I have to go tackle Devin Neal running an outside zone play? Or am I going to have to go run 40 yards downfield to cover Quentin Skinner? And if you can get into that situation where you are unpredictable as an offense, then you put Colorado at some really tricky spots. And so I think game state is going to be really important because Colorado, I think, is going to want to play in a track meet and say, KU, can you keep up with us? And I think KU is going to say to Colorado, can you out physical us? And we're going to try and keep away and control the clock and wear down your defense and make sure that your offense has to be efficient. Because as good as Colorado's offense has been this year, if you look at some of the numbers, right, they're getting to good point totals, but it's on high possession games. And so can you limit the possessions, make Colorado be efficient and match maybe what KU has been this year, which is an efficient offense. So I just think this is going to be a really fascinating game. And I feel like the first quarter is going to do so much in determining how the rest of the game plays out because the team that can set the tone, whatever that tone is, I think that's going to carry through the rest of the game.
Yep, I'm fired up for Big 12 football this weekend. We got 2 huge games in this conference. One in Tempe between Arizona State and BYU might be hitting the under, might be a low-scoring one. But as Michael Swain just said, Colorado and Kansas at Arrowhead Stadium. Look at the over. This one could get wild. It's on Fox, 2:30 p.m. Thank you, Michael. Appreciate great preview of the Kansas Jayhawks. And after this break, we will bring in a star himself. Dion might bring the stars to the sideline, but we bring the stars to our show. It's Adam Musnterteiger from, what a great name. Every time I say it, I feel like it's magical. From the Colorado side here on the 24/7 network, right after this break.
Welcome back to the show. Let's head back to the studio.
And now we move on to the Colorado side of this engagement between Kansas and CU at Arrowhead. It's going to be an interesting game. And we bring in Adam Musnterteiger, our Colorado publisher, to dig into this game because, Adam, 4 weeks ago, who would have ever guessed this was a huge game? Kansas has decided to flip the switch and just flipped the script on the Big 12. They've beaten Iowa State. They've won at BYU. Now they got Colorado coming to their joint, which is rented for the season. But still, this game is enormous, and I don't know who's going to win. These teams are both playing really well.
Yeah, Kansas has definitely played the role of spoiler pretty well here in recent weeks, and Colorado has continued to, try to put a hush on some of the doubters over this program. So it should be a fun atmosphere. It's kind of what we expected, I think, going into this Big 12 season, Fitz, is that we knew there would be some wild moments here late in the season, and we didn't quite know who would be a part of that. And to think that, Arizona State and BYU and Colorado and Kansas are going to be marquee matchups this weekend. It's kind of what we expected, but you couldn't know what to expect.
Yeah, right storyline, wrong characters. We had it completely upside down. The teams we thought would be in meaningful games at this time of year are all sitting towards the bottom of the standings or struggling like Kansas State. And here we go. Some of the newbies are showing their strength, but boy, Colorado's gotten so much better as this season went on. I was just thinking I watched that game against Nebraska. This is a completely different football team than the one that went to Lincoln.
Yeah, when you're building through the transfer portal, you're going to have to go through some of those ups and downs early in a football season. And so that's kind of what you saw with Colorado, but the acceleration was pretty quick once those guys started to kind of mesh, and there was really no chemistry issues on this team. It was kind of like if you're going to go play pickup basketball, even over at the YMCA, like you play with people, you kind of know what their strengths are, you know how to play off them. And I feel like that's what happened last year. It just was not enough time to rebuild an entire college football roster. They had skill talent. They had Shedeur Sanders at quarterback, but that was not realistic. Yet they went 4-8, and some of those games were really close. They could have even got to a bowl game last year. So when you factored in what they did through the portal this past offseason, you had to give them a little building time. And when they start slowing these games, they're quicker to get on track. It felt like through the first year and a half of the Coach Prime era, it was like it took some time for things to get revved up, and now there might be a big misplay here or there, but they get it back on track quite a bit quicker than they did last year or even earlier this year.
So there is incredible star power with this team, obviously. Who's the best player not named Sanders, Hunter, or Horn? What player has really made himself valuable to this team this season?
Nakai Hill-Green is somebody at linebacker that you can hear his hits from 6 floors up in a press box, even with semi-closed windows. Like it is incredible what he's done. And you've got this tribe mentality for Colorado's defense, and that's something that Robert Livingston brought in last year under Coach Kelly. Charles Kelly, they were really swimming, trying to figure out the scheme. This was something that Charles Kelly brought over from Alabama, and they were used to recruiting high school guys where you give them 2 years before they're really in the mix defensively. At Colorado, with a transfer portal roster, you can't afford to have a complex scheme. And so Robert Livingston came in, and the whole focus was let's tailor the entire defense around these guys. And Fitz, I've heard that from so many defense coordinators before him that there was part of me that was like, okay, that's what they all say. And then you watch the way that this defense was implemented, and it is really, these are our players. This is our scheme based on their talents. And you've got ultimate buy-in now from the defenders, and they are all kind of playing for each other, which when you see it, you see it. And I haven't seen it in the Colorado defense since 2016 when they went to the Pac-12 championship game. There's just that eyeball test of when you see those gang tackles and you see guys pointing out stuff, and really just the leadership on the defense has gone from maybe 30% to 100% this offseason. So, I would put Nakai Hill-Green as a guy that's improved his stock. And Cameron Craig on the back end at safety has been a heartbeat of that unit as well.
is Colorado's flaw is I thought I saw this last time out for them. They get bored. I mean, they get ahead. They're playing really well. Then they kind of like, okay, let's cruise. Oh, we can't do that. Now we got to play again. Because I was so shocked when I saw the final score because it gotten down to a 1-score game in the second half. And then it looked like, oh, well, here we go. It's going to get interesting. And it wasn't interesting at all. The Colorado said, nah, we're done playing and just took that win by 20-plus points.
That's a tough one. I don't know. I don't – because of the slow starts, I think sometimes it takes this team a little bit of time to get that rhythm going. If they take their foot off the gas pedal, I would say it's not unlike what you'd see from other teams. You know, they went down to UCF and put a pretty complete effort together. They've really been strong in the second half if you look at the overall score of them versus their opponents. It's been more of the issue of just getting out of the gates strong offensively a lot of the time. Defensively, that was kind of an issue out of the gates early on, but Livingston has really gotten that group. Last week, Utah picks off Shedeur Sanders on the first play of the game, and they get great field position, and the defense holds strong. And so that unit has been pretty strong out of the gates for about 6 weeks now. But it's more out of the gate, and I don't think there's any rhyme or reason for that. You know, some of these late games they've really struggled with because they practice in the mornings, and that's been an issue for them. But I think that if they start out strong, usually they'll finish pretty strong. And sometimes the only issue for them is giving too much of a leeway to the opponent early in the game score-wise. And then you got to come back like they did against Baylor in a couple of the other games this year.
Well, they are entertaining to watch. They're wildly talented, but they're going to tangle with a KU team that decided, hey, it's time we play good. We're going to play better than we have. They got rid of their late game yips and handed them off to BYU apparently. But KU finds a way to win in Provo in a late night slot. Not an easy task. Before that, they win against Iowa State at Arrowhead. This is a really dangerous KU team right now that CU's running headlong into.
And that's what you'd expect from a well-coached football team. Mm-hmm. We've just seen that in Lawrence or Kansas City now that they're playing their conference games there, that they just really take kind of the makeup of their head coach and they're very fundamentally strong. And that's something that is only going to get better through the course of the season. They are so efficient on third down, and part of that comes down to their running game and being able to make positive yards out of first and second down. The quarterback play has been up and down, and when he takes care of the football, makes plays with his legs, that really becomes a very dangerous football team. And I don't know, at this point I would say they're kind of middle of the Big 12, but they seem to have embraced this spoiler role, and they've got a new stadium coming, so things are trending positively for them.
They need to win their last two to get bowl eligible, and if they do, it'd be absolutely incredible. They're the best 4-6 team in the country. Sounds corny, but it's very true. And Colorado is playing the best football in the Big 12. How surprised, or are you surprised at the level at which Colorado is currently playing?
I had them at 8-4 preseason, and I got a lot of the Homer comments on social media, as you will. I also, as crazy as it sounds, got a lot of hater comments that like, why are you doubting Coach Brien? And those folks have more of a leg to stand on right now than the ones that called me a homer. So, no, I expected this to be a vastly improved football team because the floor had been risen in the trenches substantially on both lines. And the D-line has even exceeded my expectations a little bit. The defense in general has exceeded my expectations a little bit. So I'm not surprised. I'm a little surprised that the Big 12 I thought would be just a touch better than it's been this season.
I agree.
And so that's the part of it that's been more surprising, more so than anything out of Colorado, because I expected them to be pretty darn good this year.
Yeah, it has been interesting. We thought, why wouldn't we thought Utah would be good? And they're not. And Oklahoma State has just fallen apart. And Kansas State isn't what is turning out not to be what we thought it would be. And Kansas started with troubles. And the other one that was up there is Iowa State. They're kind of holding their own, but Colorado has an opportunity that maybe they will emerge as the lone one-loss team in terms of Big 12 action in this conference if things fall that way. And that would put them square in the driver's seat and probably in Arlington. It's been an incredible season. And I guess welcome back to the Big 12. You decided to run the show here, Buffaloes.
Well, I just have enjoyed – I didn't enjoy spending 28 and a half hours trying to get down to Lubbock through a snowstorm through Colorado. But I've genuinely enjoyed the passion in these stadiums that I've gone to in the Big 12. And I mentioned that with you and Big B in the offseason of just Colorado had been part of these just really stale atmospheres for a long time. And so everybody around Buff Nation, I feel like, and even those reporters like myself that have been covering the team, have kind of felt that on the road. And so some places can be a little bit more difficult to get to, but once you get there, you really feel the passion.
Yep, I agree. And it's been pretty magical that Coach Prime's golden touch hit right when he joined the Big 12 because it set a tone for the conference. How do you feel like the Buffaloes are going to do against KU?
Touchdown. Win. I haven't quite gotten into all of my Kansas research. We're recording this on Tuesday, and I kind of get through you get through the pass game, then you get through the press conference, and you start to kind of just work your way through the week and look at it. Colorado, the last I looked, was a 3-point favorite going out there. Kansas is playing a great game, a great game recently. I think that Colorado will go out there and be victorious, but they're going to have to work for it.
Well, but KU, 2:30 p.m. Central Time on Saturday at Arrowhead. It's on Fox, a big stage for a big game. We appreciate it so very much, Adam. I appreciate you giving us the CU side of this game.
Always fun to join you. Thank you.
And that will do it for this edition of the Big 12 Insider Spotlight. You've got a full briefing now on KU, CU. And now we're eager to get to the games, and make sure you watch out tomorrow for Big 12 Game Day as I pick up that mantle for Big B too. Big B, get healthy. I miss you. No, really, I don't like to work.
Thank you for watching the Big 12 Insiders, your Big 12 sports show. This has been a Spirit Street production.